We've got 13 games tonight in daily fantasy baseball, which means in theory we should have a lot of good pitchers at our disposal. 26 total guys on the slate. You would think that like 5 or so would grade out pretty well. We're going to have an entire section of things to watch about guys I am avoiding due to pitch count. It's a lot of the guys with high salaries we would normally want to turn to. So it is actually a tough slate. There is one guy I want to build around for today, but it's still pretty thin. That means we've got to try to find ways to make that pitcher fit in, see if there are any alternatives, decide how hard we go with that guy. It's a 13-game slate, but it is still a pretty tough one. So let's dive on in and get you set. Welcome on into the Solo Shop. That's right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network and numberFire.com. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com, here to break down that 13-game slate with locks up for 7:05 for tonight. There is just one weather note for today, and thankfully it's not rain. It's about wind. We have wind in New York. That's for the Mets and the Yankees. Those winds are in from left at 10 miles per hour. So I would downgrade the two offenses there. Obviously, not the best park for hitting to begin with, but now the wind's blowing in. Downgrade the Mets and the Yankees a bit as a result of that. We'll talk about the pitching here in just 1 second, but first, a quick reminder. We are live once again later on today. Our snake draft, the first one of the year with myself, Brandon Gadula, and JJ Zacharyson. We're going to do a 3-person snake draft for week 1 of the NFL season. If you watched that last year, we're running it back this year once again, doing that snake draft every Friday at 4 p.m. If you tune in for the MLB show, do not worry. That'll still be at 4:30 for today. We'll also take some questions after the snake draft about the NFL slate as well. So if you got questions about NFL, MLB, whatever it may be, just want to watch us draft, tune in 4 p.m. today and check out that. We also do have our Heat Check Week 1 DFS preview podcast posted with myself and Brandon Gadula breaking down the Week 1 main slate. You can find that by searching for the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed wherever you get your podcasts. While you're there, leave a rating and review, hit subscribe. Make sure you swing back on Monday for our recap podcast as well. Our betting podcast covering the spread already up as well for week number 1. Broke down Cowboys Bucks, but also talked about a couple other games this week and some college games with Dr. Eric Eager of Pro Football Focus. Finally, NASCAR podcast coming up later on today, 10:30 on YouTube and up on the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed. After that, hey, soccer fans, this season, FanDuel and Captain Morgan are teaming up to give you a one-of-a-kind soccer contest. Introducing Captain Morgan's Soccer Pick'em, a weekly fantasy contest that is entirely free to play. The contest is simple. All you have to do is make quick predictions for Saturday games this soccer season. You will earn points for each correct pick and compete for a chance to win up to $3,000 in prizes every single week. Head over to FanDuel and enter the Captain Morgan Soccer Pick'em today. Must be 21 plus to participate. For more details, visit FanDuel.com or download the FanDuel Fantasy app. Eligibility restrictions apply, and don't forget to make your game day more delicious and sub in the captain. Pitching preview for this Friday main slate, Robbie Ray is $11,200. Think you know who my top pitcher will be based on that. Not a big surprise there. Carlos Rodon is 10-8 if he starts. Not confirmed yet that he will go. Framber Valdez is 10-5. Shohei Ohtani is 10,000. Tyler Mahle, not a bad matchup. He's $9,900. Julio Urias is 96. Facing Joe Musgrove, and Joe Musgrove checks in at $9,400. Trevor Rogers is 92. German Marquez is $9,100. Then Tanner Houck, Jordan Montgomery, Michael Wacha, Adrian Hauser, Madison Bumgarner, and Marco Gonzalez are the others at $8,000 or higher. And again, I think Robbie Ray is the top guy for tonight. And whoever is number 2, whatever you decide the number 2 option is, they're probably not going to be close to Ray. He's facing the Orioles, and it's not about the matchup. I think the Orioles are a good team, and they're not a team I actively want to target. I like the Orioles, weirdly. So they're not a team I really want to go at. They have a 107 WRC plus against lefties, and they've got enough power to make you nervous if you are Robbie Ray. They also just saw him 2 starts ago. So it's not an ideal spot. He's just so much better than everybody else on this slate. He's been good all year. But over the past 6 starts specifically, we'd have seen velocity go down for Robbie Ray, which could be a concern. And usually it often is. But it hasn't been. In fact, Ray's been weirdly better with the velocity being down. He has a 38% strikeout rate in those 6 starts, 2.49 skill interactive ERA, 5% walk rate. He used to have issues with walks and hard contact. The walks are gone. Those have been gone all year. The hard contact has been a bit more in check recently, too. His hard hit rate in the starts with Les Velo is 32%. So I'm not saying he's fixed it. That I definitely don't think that's the case. But if we're gonna look at a small sample, I'd rather he be good in the small sample than bad. At least there is that. In that game against the Orioles, Ray had 10 strikeouts over 7 innings, allowed 2 earned runs. I'm not sure anybody else in the slate can get you 10 strikeouts. I don't know if that's the case. Like, if I could bet, will anyone other than Robbie Ray get 10 strikeouts tonight? I'd be pretty intrigued by that number. I think that Ray is confidently the top option of the night. So to me, Robbie Ray needs to be number one by a significant margin. If you're going single entry, you will be biting the bullet on a high roster rate with Robbie Ray, but I don't really care. I think he's still the top guy for tonight. Single entry, go Ray. Cash games, go Ray. And then just figure it out from there. For number 2, I'm not a big fan of Julio Urias' matchup. Pretty similar to Ray, where don't really want to go at the matchup, just like the situation. Urias is facing the Padres. I'm not scared of like them in terms of like, oh, they're going to put up like 30 runs. They just don't strike out a ton. I still think that Urias is number 2 behind Ray. Most of that's just based on talent. Urias has been featuring his curveball more over his past 8 starts, and it has worked out pretty well. The plate discipline numbers are very good. He has a 27% strikeout rate with a 5% walk rate, which means he's letting up minimal base runners, but his batted ball numbers are sick. He is specifically letting up a hard hit ball, 95 plus miles per hour on the exit velocity, just 24% of the time. League average is about 40%. He's at almost half that. And 8 starts is not a small sample to look at batted ball data. That's a pretty good sample, and Urias has been sick. If you combine the batted ball data with his strikeouts, it's going to lead to awesome results, and it has, because his ERA in this time is 1.42. Urias has not let up more than 2 earned runs in any start in that time. When he faced the Padres 3 starts ago, he held them to 1 hit over 5 innings. They also struck out just 4 times. So again, that's why it's not perfect, but he's good. And on a slate where we can't find a lot of guys with strikeout upside, I'll take that at a certain point. I am going to rank him a decent amount below Ray, but he's definitely second on this list. So to me, it's tiers. It's Robbie Ray, gap, Urias, gap, down to the rest of the options for today. I do think that like Tyler Mahle's interesting. Marquez, I worry about pitch count a little bit just because there's nothing to play for there. I think that Mahle would probably be number 3 for me, question mark? I don't know. Either way, I think that it's pretty clear to me. Ray is 1, Urias is 2 for tonight. And my player pool will be exclusively, guys in this upper range, guys $9,000 or higher, because nobody below 9,000 really stands out to me as being a great option. If you were to force me to recommend a value play, I would go with Eli Morgan. Again, in the interest of full disclosure, I am not going to use Morgan tonight. I want to make that very clear, but I realize some of you really want value plays, and he's the best one to me. Try not to let you down here. So again, I'm not going to use him. He would be my recommendation. I stacked against Morgan a lot when he first came up, but he's a different pitcher now. His velocity has been up for his past 8 starts, and in those 8 starts, his strikeout rate is 24%. That's not a bad number. He's had some individual good games. He held the Red Sox scoreless for 5 2/3 last week. He had 7 strikeouts there. He had 6 shutout innings against the Twins with 8 strikeouts. He had 9 strikeouts against the Jays, and the Jays and the Red Sox are both really good teams. So he's doing it there is pretty impressive. He's facing the Brewers tonight, and they gain a DH, which I do think matters for them. They have a 24% strikeout rate versus righties, though, which is an above average mark. It's not as high as it was for them previously, but it's still above average, and it is a bump up for opposing pitchers. So again, I'm not going to use him. Want to make that fully clear. But I think there is a path to him doing well if you insist on rolling out a value. Like if you just want to load up on the Jays and go crazy there, Morgan would be the guy. But again, just doesn't really fit what I want for tonight. I think that Urias is probably the lowest I might go. Maybe Marquez can be a guy at $9,100, but like, I'm going to talk myself into it is the way that I'm thinking about things for tonight. And we'll talk about why I'm not on some of the other guys in things to watch, specifically revolving around a lot of low pitch counts. Now, it may be tough to stack the Toronto Blue Jays while using Ray at pitcher, and that's tough, but I do think it's at least worth looking into, even if it means you settle for a 3-player stack and have to, use a couple value plays in there. But the Jays are facing Chris Ellis. Ellis is set to make his 3rd start with Baltimore and his 2nd start against the Jays, and he did really well in the first one. he allowed just 1 run over 4 2/3 innings. So he's already held them in check once. And his other start recently, which was against the Yankees, was also solid. But the AAA numbers for Ellis left plenty to be desired. He had a 6.32 ERA with the Rays AAA team, 23% strikeout rates, 11% walk rate, not a big ground ball guy. And based on those numbers in AAA, you would expect him to struggle in the majors. His peripherals aren't super strong either. He's let up a 47% hard hit rate with a 50% fly ball rate. Those numbers have not bit him yet, but they very well could soon, and they very well could have, because his expected ERA per Baseball Savant is 5.38. So I think it's wise to at least try to get the Jays here, even if it does mean you're settling for their non-elite guys. Corey Dickerson, I think, is a key to this, $2,600. George Springer might be able to get back in there today, but if he isn't, Dickerson can bat leadoff for $2,600. His 142 ISO against righties is underwhelming, but he's low salaried access to a great lineup with a tremendous matchup. It's not like a no power guy like Nicky Lopez went deep last night because, of course, after I talked about it on the Q&A saying, hey, I don't want to use him, he goes deep. Why not? He's not that mold. So I can use Dickerson. Alejandro Kirk could be in there once again. I will go to him as well. I think that the Jays, you take the value you can get and then see who you can get to for the studs. And the other route for stacking the Jays with Ray is having a lower salaried second stack. And I do think that there are 3 options that grade out pretty well there. We'll go through all 3. 2 right here, and then 1 more in things to watch. With Ray's salary being super high and the Jays so fun, I think that we do need to try to do this. And one of those lower salary teams could be the Twins. That does make me nervous because they have been pretty bad against lefties recently. They're facing one in Daniel Lynch today, so it's risky, but I think it's worth the risk. Lynch has struggled all year long. He is trying to combat those struggles by adding in a sinker, which makes sense because the batted ball data was a good reason why Lynch was struggling. We're up to 7 starts since he's made this change. The sinker hasn't cut down the hard contact. He's letting up a 43% hard hit rate with a 43% fly ball rate in that time. That's pretty rough. The strikeout rate is 20%. The walk rate is 13%. I do prefer to stack against guys who walk fewer batters and let in more balls in play. But at least here, a walk can lead to a multi-run inning in a hurry. I guess it's like a consolation. And we did see that happen his most recent time out. He walked 3 guys and let up 2 home runs against the White Sox, and that combo led to 6 earned runs against him. He did have a cut on his finger in that start, which may have contributed, but like we saw that before too, against the Blue Jays and the Yankees. So I don't think it was a one-off fluke due to the finger. Those teams are better than the Twins against lefties. So, we just need to keep that in mind for sure. But the Twins have the salary savers we need in this spot. I will take a risk on them because I do want to try to, find ways to get the Jays. The value play here, we got like Brent Rooker, Rob Snyder, Ryan Jeffers. The one I'd like the most is Ryan Jeffers. He is not a lock to play because he's a catcher, but he has a 233 ISO versus lefties. If you look at him, he looks like a guy who can hit some dingers. Got some built forearms. He's got a good batted ball profile. Doesn't strike out too much. He does strike out a lot, which could be an issue versus Lynch, but he's got dinger upside. He's $2,300. I hope he plays so we can use him here. So I would say Jeffers is one, probably Rooker too. He's had a lot of issues this year, but again, power is there. Russ Snyder's 3. He's probably the best overall hitter of the 3, but not the highest upside of the 3. So all 3 of those guys are options, but Jeffers to me, the number 1 of that group. For the third stack, I'm going to go with the Reds. They're also, like the Twins, not good against lefties. So it does annoy me, but they have some individuals who work, and I'm hoping that's enough against John Lester. Lester seems to have given up on trying to get strikeouts. Like a lot of guys will make tweaks to try to increase strikeout rate. Lester don't care. He is going all in on his sinker. He threw that pitch 42% of the time in his most recent start. Not shockingly, his strikeout rate since joining the Cardinals is just 12%. He is still letting up some hard contact as well. The one downside of stacking against him is that Lester is getting a healthy number of ground balls. He's let up just a 26% fly ball rate in this time, and that can be a bummer. The one exception, the one game where he did not get a lot of ground balls was against the Reds, a team he will face tonight again. He faced them 2 starts ago. They actually had a 53% fly ball rate against Lester in that game. Now, they didn't make a ton of hard contact, and fly balls that are not struck well are outs. So Lester pitched well there, but they were lofting it. Now they get to see him again for the second time in 12 days. That may boost the hard contact stuff. So it's not a situation I like all that much, but I think it's fine enough to justify on this slate. So I think the Reds are number 3 for me. They do have 3 guys who are value plays who have shown at least some pop against lefties. Those guys are Kyle Farmer, Aristides Aquino, and Tyler Stevenson. With Aquino, I worry he'll leave for a pinch hitter or a defensive replacement because that does happen pretty often. But Stevenson and Farmer should play the whole game. They are $2,600 and $2,900 respectively. I'll rank both of them above Aquino. I will take some swipes at Aquino, but it's kind of like Albert Pujols last week where you're kind of hoping for an early dinger. He did get that. Pujols did. And Aquino can get that too, but it does limit upside if a guy's going to leave the game after 2 or 3 plate appearances. So Aquino third among the values for the Reds for today. Let's go to things to watch and talk about some of the pitchers I was not on before, largely due to pitch count. The guys with specifically pitch count concerns are Michael Wacha, Trevor Rogers, Tanner Houck, and Carlos Rodon. Again, if Rodon starts. Wacha is expected to piggyback with Chris Archer. He's looked pretty good recently, but the piggybacking is enough for me to jump out. Rogers just came back from a pretty extended leave. He went 83 pitches in his first game back. They have no reason to stretch him out. He didn't go long earlier in the year, so I'm expecting Rogers probably around 80 to 85 again. Houck hasn't gone longer than 90 all year. He's looked good recently, just hasn't gone longer than 90. And Rodon, again, not even confirmed as a starter yet. His velocity was pretty bad last time out. He's gone 67 and 77 pitches in his 2 starts since returning. So they're all interesting. Like, I think they all pitch pretty well, but I can't get there with their expected workloads. And that's why I am building around Ray and Urias for tonight. It's really tough to get excited about the Marlins because they're pretty bad. They're facing Ian Anderson for tonight. And Anderson has struggled quite a bit since he came off the IL. So maybe if you need another value stack, you could take some swipes at the Miami Marlins. And Anderson's been brutal since he came off the IL. And he's a good pitcher. It just doesn't seem healthy right now. So specifically with the Marlins, I think it's the younger guys who are interesting. Lewin Diaz is $2,200. Jesus Sanchez is $2,500. Lewis Brinson, if you got to get there, is $2,300. And then Jazz Chisholm, I know it hasn't been as superstar-ish recently as it was before he had his injuries, but he had a dinger last night, got a stolen base as well. So the upside is still there. So I would say that that you can get a 4-player stack from the Marlins, but if you want like a lower salaried young guy with some upside, I think that they do great up pretty well there as well. Finally, if you want some more hitters on bad offenses, because like, why not? We got the Twins, the Reds versus the lefties, and then the Marlins, and let's add the Mariners to the list too. They're facing Madison Bumgarner for the second straight start. Bumgarner got beat up last time out against the Mariners, and he said he couldn't grip the ball due to, he said they were too slippery, but he's probably been dealing with slippery balls for a while now. That came out weird, but like, he hasn't been pitching well for a bit. He has just a 17% strikeout rate. In his past 8 starts, more changeups. His fly ball rate is 44%. So I think we can use guys against him. Mitch Haniger is sick. I like Luis Torrens. Ty France works. Not as into Abraham Toro against lefties as righties. So he's the one guy I'll be who's batting as a righty. I'm okay being lower on, but like, the Mariners work as a mini stack or a one-off, I think, for today. Same thing with the Marlins. Marlins, maybe you can get a full stack in there. I'd probably be okay with that, but hopefully that's enough value to get you to Robbie Ray, your pitcher, and the Blue Jays along with him. Let's finish up with some dinger calls for today. I know things have not been that great for Byron Buxton since he came back, but he's been getting more hard contact recently, facing Daniel Lynch, who lets up a lot of fly balls and a lot of hard contact. I got to go with the heart for today. Byron Buxton going yard tonight for the boring home run call. But the fun one, we will go to the Jays and talk about Corey Dickerson again. Not the biggest power guy, but great matchup. Love the situation here versus Ellis. Probably going to get a lot of plate appearances because of the way this game sets up. So the boring home run call for today, Byron Buxton. Let's go, baby. And then Corey Dickerson, the fun one to round things out. That is all that we have here for today on the Solo Shop. But once again, we have the NASCAR podcast coming up at 10:30. NFL Heat Check already posted, breaking down week 1 with myself and Brandon Gadula. Snake Draft is at 4 p.m. on the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter pages. MLB Q&A at 4:30. So a lot of stuff here on the FanDuel YouTube page and up on the numberFire Daily Fantasy podcast feed. Make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure you check out all the good stuff and leave a rating or review if you're watching YouTube. Hit that like button as well, because all those help us out a ton, and we truly do appreciate it oh so much. If you've got more questions for me, I am on Twitter at Jim Sannes, JIMSANNES. You can also follow the FanDuel Podcast Network at FanDuel Podcasts. Big thank you to everyone for tuning in, and good luck to you tonight. We'll talk to you once again on Monday for some more baseball. This has been the Solo Shot right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network.